this computer, sure. So we're going to go through kind of the basics of Canvas grading. And, obviously if there's any questions, then definitely let me know. One thing I have to remember is not to show the screen that has my students' names on it. I don't think it's an issue, but I don't want to show their grades on the video, which is understandable.
I understand.
So I'm going to share my screen. So these are the assignments. This is in the assignment area of Canvas, which we've talked about a little bit before. This idea that no matter what you create that is something that's going to be graded, it's still going to go into this assignment section, which is a little strange, but whatever. It's the way that Canvas decided to do things. Between Canvas and Blackboard, they each have their, I guess, idiosyncrasies or their weirdnesses. But I get where they're coming from, because it's something that you assign to the students, whether it's a discussion or otherwise, although it's right above the discussions, which is kind of interesting. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger. Okay. All right. So one thing that I'll start out with is just the groupings. So, here you have assignments. That is a pretty standard part. You have the discussions, and you'll notice that mine are out of order. What's interesting, the nice thing is you can just drag and drop and you can put things back in order. The students, it doesn't matter to the students. They see it wherever you put it, but for organization, it's good to have specific sense in terms of what you're trying to do. And there's some in here that I haven't even published. They're just kind of lingering things that I came up with that I want to do sooner than later. And then there's little ones here that I talked about doing, and I will come back to it and put it out there. So right now I only have, which is good, this will be good for the video, is I only have the assignments and discussions. And I have a little bit of participation because of the quiz at the beginning of the semester. You had to do the verification of attendance, I'm sure, as well,
yes.
Which I thought was strange the way that they did it. But hey, if it works and the students can use it, then it's fine. So the biggest thing right here is groups. So in terms of creating new categories, so I'm going to create a category for group project. So I'm going to click on group and I'm going to create group project. I'm going to put group projects because I'm probably going to give them more than one. And just for conversation, I'm going to say that it's 20% of the total grade. And how I break that up is going to be a little bit different. Oh, actually, I had group projects right down here. That's right. We talked about that a little bit. But anyway, I'm going to bring this up here so that we can see it. Put it between assignments and discussions. And at this point, it's worth 20% of the grade, which is probably too much given everything else that's going on. Forgot about these down here. So final project is 10%, projects is 10%. I'm gonna actually do this. I'm gonna drag G1 up to group projects, and I'm gonna get rid of this one. Again, it's very intuitive. You just kind of, always these little 3 dots at the end of everything, that's where you have the magic. It's where you have the things that you're trying to do. So if you want to change the value of something, you go to the top, but here you can change the way it's written. You can move the contents, you can move the group, you can do a number of things. Now, right now, this isn't even published. So one of the things that I'll be doing tomorrow, or maybe later today, depending on how I'm feeling, I will make some additions to this because my group projects are largely individual. So I will break this up into groups, into teams. So I have 40 students. So I'll break them up into probably 8 different teams, 9 different teams, depending on how the numbers work out. And I will add different pieces to this. So right now, if you go up here to the very, very top, this is where you're going to see the group's weight. So right now I'm over. I'm at 111, which you can't. I mean, you can go over 100 if you want to, but it's going to make it a little bit more complicated for, you know, grading purposes, for determining what that final grade is going to be. So you will want to make this right around 100. I do 101 because I use 1% for extra credit. Here I will take group projects and I'll put that back down to 10%. I'll save that and I'll be at 101. So if I check again, go back in here, assignment group's weight, it says 101. Okay. The biggest weight in terms of my different pieces is assignments and discussions. Being that it's a, well, not because it's a remote course, but because I want them to constantly be talking to each other. The discussion piece is important. And the assignments themselves, they have one every week. So if they have, you know, 14, 15 assignments, they're worth about 2% or more of their final grade once I drop one. So 2 to 3% each assignment out of that bunch. And I may double up depending on what happens in the latter part of the semester. Any questions so far, John?
The assignment group's weight, you said it's the very top. I think it's probably obscured by the
by
pictures.
my picture.
But anyway, I'll find it up there.
Yeah, so if you move, if you tap on the black part of the picture on the shared screen where you see my face and your face, you can just move that over and you can see the 3 dots.
I see. It's 3 dots that you're, okay.
So it's these 3 dots that are right here next to the assignment button. And that'll give you the assignment group's weight.
There it is. Okay.
Yep.
I see.
So, you know, that allows you to do the math basically for any of your assignments. Now there's little tips and tricks here that obviously that I want to cover. Each grouping, which, you know, assignments is a grouping, group projects is a grouping, discussions is a grouping, they each need to be managed separately in the sense that, yes, you have determined that they're worth 30%, but you can click on the 3 dots again in that particular grouping, and you can edit to the point where you can identify again what the percentage, what the weight is. You could change the name, and right here, and I don't really tell them up front, but I can get rid of the lowest score. Okay, so and then I like this little function, which is pretty neat. If there is an assignment out of the bunch that you don't think they should have the option of dropping in terms of a score, then you can identify one of those. So for instance, if I think personal branding is absolutely the most important thing that they are doing in that grouping, and I don't want them to be able to drop that grade, then I can just select that. I don't have anything that's that important at this point, but that's a nice option. So out of the 15 or so assignments that they'll have throughout the semester, the lowest grade, which might be one that they missed, they went on a trip, they just completely forgot to do it, it won't matter because it won't count against their grade. And so I'll save that, and that'll be the one rule within the assignments bunch. And you see the rule at the top right. Do you see that one rule, John?
Where?
The top
there,
right.
yeah, one rule. Yes, I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that just signifies that you have a rule for that particular thing. for that group. So for the assignments group, and I'm going to do the same thing for discussions. I'm going to click on the 3 dots. I'm going to click on edit, and I'm going to allow them to drop the lowest score. Because there's a discussion every week, one of them, fine, give it to them as a, they maybe didn't do what they were supposed to. Maybe they didn't respond to enough students, of their classmates. And so that's fine. So now you have one rule right there.
You'd have to be careful not to designate that for something where there was only one event in
Right.
that group. That
Yeah,
would take it all out.
That would be called a gimme,
Yeah.
basically. Participation, I don't think I'm going to do any rules. Quizzes, I may, but I haven't given a ton of quizzes at this point, so it's not really that important at this point. So I'm going to go back to now the group project, because we're right in the middle of it right now. I'm going to create a couple of assignments. Well, it's going to be called an assignment, and I'm going to put GP2, and I'm going to put a fictitious date for now. I do everything on 100 points because it doesn't matter. It's just easier for them to wrap their heads around. And I'll add a GP3. And I'll put that to the following week. And 100 points again. The nice thing about this is you can just go through this and create a whole bunch of assignments, or at least designations, but you don't have to put specifically what it is yet. But you can frame out what they're going to have. So I could do A1 through A15 because I know that I'm going to give them 15 assignments, and you just have to make sure not to publish them, because then the students are going to be like, what's this blank assignment? They might get confused. And because I'm going to keep this even, I am going to also have a GP4, which is actually going to be their presentation, which they don't know that they're doing yet, but that's okay. And simply put, I'm just going to put presentation. And I'll talk about the catch-22 with doing a presentation or anything that's going to be worth larger amounts of points. So here, I'm going to do that as well. GP3, this is going to be packet. So generally with my projects, I have them come up with a a packet that they do together, but everything else is individual. So in this particular instance, this is actually a discussion. You can see the little call out boxes. And this, they're going to get an individual grade for. GP2, they're going to get an individual grade for. But GP3 and 4, they're going to get a team grade. So this is where they can slack. Individual students can slack a little bit, and the other students will pick up their slack. Presentation, they're getting a team grade. So if one student doesn't do as well as another, they're still getting the same grade. I generally try to avoid doing group projects where everything's a team grade, because you're just asking for students to not do the work that they're supposed to. How's that sound so far, John?
So far, so good.
Okay. Now, what I will do on occasion, and I'll do this as with regards to the final project. Let's say that the final project is going to be in pieces again. So I'm going to have FP1. I'm not going to put a due date yet because it's too far in advance for me right now. I don't want to pull up the syllabus. So I'm going to do FP2. Again, 100 points. FP3. I'm going to explain a little bit different approach with the group, the final project versus the group project. So the final project is going to be individual regardless. So even though it's called a project, you know, you can make a project obviously an individual thing or a team thing or an all class thing, which is fine. So in this particular instance, you know, I've allocated 10% of the final grade to the final project. And actually I need to edit this so that it says final project. Boom. And I'm not going to be dropping any grades. There's going to be no rules for a final project. However, because of the way that this is set up, you know, if I'm allocating a full 10% of the final grade to the final project, the pieces that they're going to submit at the beginning of the final project are going to be small. It's going to be half a page, 1 page of something having to do with marketing because it's a marketing class. That should not be the same kind of weight as the final packet and the final presentation. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this weight. So I'm going to edit this to be 3%. Okay. And so what I'm doing is I'm actually parceling this out so that now each one of these is worth 1% because it's 3% of the total grade. 3 assignments, do the math. There you go, 3%. And so now I have another 7% to play with. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give 4% to the final packet and 3% to the presentation. So I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to create 2 new groups. One is going to be FP, all right, I'm just going to do final project packet. I'm going to give that 4%. And I'm going to give final project presentation. That's going to be 3%. So the final project in completion is still 10%, but in order for the gradebook to work the way that you want it to, because you have to break it out, you know, so 3 plus 4 plus 3 equals 10% for the final project. If you put all of this in here, it would give each piece of it the same weight. And I don't want, and I'll make it even clearer here, final project packet, FP4, packet. And plus here, because you have to put an assignment underneath it, otherwise it doesn't grade anything. Presentation. So here you have FP1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These are each worth 1 point on the final grade, you know, 1% of the final grade. And then these are worth 4% and 3% respectively. And the total of all these 3 groups together is 10%, which is your final project distribution. All good, John?
Yeah. Yep.
And honestly, you do, I've done similar things in Blackboard where you have to configure certain things a certain way. And sometimes you can break it up. I think Blackboard might actually make it easier for you to break it up. But in Canvas, this is the way that I've done it. And it's still, you know, to their eyes, they're just seeing FP1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all in the last folder or maybe the last couple of folders. But it's pretty straightforward in terms of what their value is. Because otherwise, I don't want the packet being worth 2%. You know, if it were to be 5 things divided by 10, that would be 2% each. And that's just too much weight towards those first couple of assignments. Good?
Okay, good.
And then as I said before, you know, I've said previously, the extra credit is, you you can make extra credit worth 1%, but you could add additional assignments under extra credit, so it would actually turn it into less value, but it still amounts to the students being able to gain a little bump at the end. And so what I look at in terms of the 3 or so extra credit opportunities that I provide them, like I'll do a Halloween extra credit. So classes on Wednesday, the Wednesday closest to Halloween, I'm going to say dress up in Halloween costume and as part of the remote class, and I'll give you a point, an extra point. And that'll give them, it'll be clear when I look at the grades that they did this. So if they're pretty close to that next letter grade increment, I'm going to give it to them. So in all, it just, it gives them an extra percent. You could actually make this 0 and just have it as a grouping, and you can still see it on the grade book. But this is just the way that I handle it. Does that make sense?
Not completely.
Okay.
I'll listen to the recording.
Okay. Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stop share, and what I'm going to do is create a little bit of a view of the grade book, the grades, but I'm going to hide the student names so that they're not put out there. And of course, I'm going to also show that I still need to do some grading, but that's okay. Which is normal. One of the tricks, because if you're grading 40 students, you may not get through all 40 in a sitting. And so I have to remember to tell myself, oh, the next batch, I should start with the last student and go backwards so that every student always sees their stuff being graded. I don't know if that makes sense. I find myself always getting through about half of them and then moving to something else. And then I realize that, those students, the last students, the Z's, the W's in the class, their stuff gets graded later than everybody else. All right, so here I will be able to show my desktop without showing the students. Yes, I can do that. Okay, great. So I'm going to share screen again. And I'm just going to share desktop. All right. So you should see, do you see any student names?
No.
Okay. You just see projects grade and then discussion grade and participation grade,
Right.
et cetera, right?
Right.
Okay, good. So what I meant before with the extra credit is that when I'm going through grades, and all this stuff will be filled, right now it's not filled because they haven't done most of this. And see, you have the final project presentation, the packet, the project, quizzes, this is the breakdown of all of the different pieces that they've been working on. This is great. I can scan through and you don't see the students. So a lot of this is unpublished. But your grade book, when you look through it, you'll have obviously the grades. There's a batch that I was talking about in the first third of the course. And then at the very end, you'll see the total. And because of the way that I've set it up in the assignments section, extra credit is the last column that you see before the total grade. So if I see, let's see, here's a 75% right now for a particular student. That might be, half a point away from getting a B plus. I forget what my grading scale is, but if it was, if that student was very, very close and I saw right here that they had submitted some extra credit, I would give it to them. Now, the other way to do it is like I do 1% of the grade, but I could also just make it 0%, and it's just an indicator of whether or not they submitted some extra credit, and that's when you can give them a bump. Make sense?
Yes, yeah, it makes sense.
So if I see a 1 in this column, the nice thing is it tells me that they've done something, and otherwise it won't count against them. And you have to, what I will do depending on the student, some students are clear cut, super A, a student that's got a 98.5 is going to get an A, and 97.5 is going to get an A. Obviously the hundreds are going to get an A. So I don't have to worry about it too much. It's the ones that are kind of in the middle ground that I need to look at each part and make sure that they're getting all the consideration that they should be getting based on the work that they put forth. And I'll do different things to get their attention. I've talked about this before, but I'll give them a 0% if they didn't do it, because they'll get a notification that they got a 0%, and that'll be a nice kick in the butt to go and do the work that they're supposed to do. And some of those students may have spoken to me, but it's just a reminder that they need to get it in, otherwise it's going to count against them. And then the 50% that I put in for certain assignments is a reminder that either something is missing or that they need to resubmit. I don't really give anybody a 50%. A 50% is my kind of my internal notification and notification to the student, but it's a reminder to me. So when I see this, when I go through my gradebook and I see, oh, wow, there's a 50, that means that something's wrong. 0, they didn't do anything, but a 50 means that they missed something, and I will have communicated to them, please resubmit so that you can get more points. And I do that with a lot of students. I will tell them, I went through your assignment and this is great, but it's short. The expectation was 2 pages. You submitted 1.25. If you'd like to get more credit, you can submit a revision at the proper length, or they forgot to do their references, or they didn't use the proper format. Especially within the first couple weeks, you want to be very stringent about that. Otherwise, they're never going to use the right format. They're going to keep doing whatever they're doing. Good.
Yep. Good.
So this is generally what my gradebook's going to look like. Although I do have a lot of grading to catch up on, and it's all grouped based on the different groupings, whether it's assignments, discussions, projects, group project, final project, participation, quizzes, and you can call it anything you want. You could, in my culinary course, I have a whole grouping called validations, and that's when the students demonstrate through video that they can do certain things. So they'll do a tomato concasse, and they'll have to do a video of themselves, and they upload that, and that has its own grouping, and they do 15 validations or 13 validations throughout the semester. But you can do a grouping for anything. Is it the find its? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
You can do a grouping just for the find its, and that could be its own individual grade as part of the final grade.
Right.
Anything you want to take another look at?
I don't need to do that now, as long as I'm serious about being able to refer back to the recording, because this is there are details that I need to understand better.
Right.
But I get the broad picture.
Yeah.
I want to. This might be a good point. I attended a meeting yesterday with Basilio. Had a meeting for instructors to reduce our stress level or to deal with.
Let me stop you there for a second, John. Is this something we want in the recording, or should I stop the recording?
I, you can stop the recording if you wish.
Oh, if
I
you want
just
it to be
wanted,
in, we can.
I just wanted to say that one of the participants in that meeting came up with a very important suggestion, and that is that there's a book called let's see. It's hard to read. Maybe you should stop the recording because I was going to read this off, but I can't read it. But it's one of the people recommended a book that you can order that tells all about how to use Canvas.
Oh,
And
okay.
I immediately ordered it, and I was looking at my order form to get the. Oh, here it is. It's called Canvas LMS Course Design.
Okay.
Canvas LMS Course Design. It's a paperback. It costs $45, and I'm hoping mine comes today.
Nice. That'll be helpful, and that way you can dog ear some of the pages, or put in little tabs with common things.
But I thought anyone who watches this should be interested in that book. You should be interested in it.
Yeah. No, I'm glad we kept recording.
Yeah. Thanks. That
Yeah.
was my contribution.
Yeah. No, it's good. I mean, and obviously, if there's as we get closer to the end of the semester, I'll do a couple more of these sessions so that, different faculty can fix what's going on in their grade book. Because that's when, again, there's, spikes throughout the semester. There's big spike right at the beginning. There'll be a couple spikes in the middle of the semester. And there's going to be one massive spike at the end when, professors are trying to figure out their grades, and they've been assigning stuff throughout the semester, but it's not put together in a way that comes out to something that they can use to give the student a grade. So we'll do that. We'll do this again, but hopefully we'll have, we'll be able to do share screen, and I can actually help you with your screen as well.
Good. I appreciate that. By the way, the author of that book is John Ryan, Ryan. And I'll give you some feedback.
Yeah.
I can't wait for this book to come. I hope it comes today.
That'll be a nice treat for the weekend.
Yep.
Good stuff. All right. Well, if it's okay with you, I'm going to actually stop the recording now. And I'm actually